President Trump celebrated his trade deal with China, but was it really a win for Beijing? Last week, China paused planned export controls on rare earths and the US cut 10% off its tariffs on Chinese imports. After a meeting, the president said he would give 12 out of 10. That agreement, though, largely restored where trade relations had been just a few months before and showed China's willingness to flex its muscle by using tools like its control of the rare earth supply. Janet Moy is head of market analysis at RBC Brewin Dolphin. Janet, do you think we saw a demonstration of strength from China here?
Yes, definitely. I think China knows that it has an upper hand on the supply and refinement of critical minerals, and that is essential for the supply chain of AI and semiconductors, tech equipment, etc. And that is basically what is growing substantially at the moment. That's really what the world needs. So China totally understands that, and that's why I think it arguably has a bit of an upper hand over the US on that, despite the US making a lot of deals and projects hoping to ramp up the global supply of critical minerals so that it can be less dependent on China. It will take a long time, according to many experts. So I would say yes, but generally we also see that China is willing to suspend the restrictions on rare earths for a year and is willing to start buying soybeans from the US, and accordingly the US has cut tariff on China. So I think both sides want to have de-escalation of trade tensions, which would be great for global growth. And they still need each other. It is better for them to have a working relationship rather than being more isolated. But I think generally speaking, it is just a de-escalation, but not a resolution.
Well, US imports from China have fallen quite steeply. That tariff is still at 47%. Is China coping with this? Has it found other markets for those exports?
Well, yes, if you look at the official export data, you can see that there has been a diversification in terms of export destination from China. You're absolutely right. The exports to US has fallen because it is facing huge tariffs still, but it has diversified its export to Europe, particularly Central and Eastern Europe. And also it has great trade links with Asia as well. So China, it is a manufacturing powerhouse. It manufactures great products. It has a stronghold in supply chains of many important tech semiconductor equipment, for example. So, it is still extremely important, and it shows that China is being able to still find sustainable revenue sources from countries other than the US.
One thing that wasn't mentioned in these talks at all, according to President Trump, was AI and the possible export of NVIDIA's advanced chips to China, which currently are blocked. We know NVIDIA's lobbying to have those restrictions lifted, but is China moving ahead in AI even without them?
That's such an interesting question. I think it is very hard to answer that, but if you listen to what NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang has been saying, he said the world keep underestimating China in terms of its strength in AI. And Jensen Huang basically said China is right behind the US in terms of tech development. And it's interesting that the US seems to be a bit more willing to export certain segments of advanced AI equipment and chips to China, but China actually has quite a tough stance. It says that they actually don't want NVIDIA chips because they're developing their own. So again, it really gives China that leverage over the US. And there is still a lot of question mark. We know that China is deploying lots of resources, and its 5-year plan, the main goal is self-reliance. So, I'm sure there are lots of projects and developments and innovation going on in China, and we really shouldn't take it for granted that the US is the #1 spot.
That was Janet Moy of RBC Brewin Dolphin. Don't forget, you can watch more videos on Reuters.com.